Hello everybody, and Jess here, and welcome back to RWBY Ice Queendom. This episode is late, but what can I say? I'm gonna be honest with you, I completely forgot that RWBY comes out on Sundays, and I completely missed the release of episode 3. And it was only someone in my Discord server that reminded me that, hey, episode 3 has been out for a few days already. You gonna record it or not, or what's going on? And here we are. Here we are, recording episode 3, like a day or two before episode 4 releases. At least episode 3 is going to be fresh on my mind when I record that one. So again, terribly sorry for the delay, but I can be forgetful like that, and happens. I'm only human after all. Right. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what happened in the previous episode. And what did happen is a new, not a, multiple new groups were formed. Group Juniper, made out of the secondary characters, and Group RWBY, made of Ruby Rose, Yang, I think is her sister's name. I will remember them eventually. Weiss and Blake. That makes the Team RWBY. And what's gonna happen next? We don't really know. And I don't really know, at least you probably do if you've seen the original series, but I have no clue. Because the previous episode served as an end of the intro arc, of the prelude, where we're introduced to the characters, a little bit to the world, the group is formed, and from now on we're going to have some shenanigans happen, I'm assuming. One curious thing is that apparently there is some monster, some Grimm, some very strong Grimm out and about, and I don't remember, was that the Grimm they defeated in the end with that decapitation combo move, or is it something else entirely that the witch with a big hat is after? I don't know, but that could potentially become a plot point. Interesting things are that it was RWBY and Zhang that became leaders of their respective groups. RWBY, I can understand. Sure, she's the protagonist, so through the power of the protagonist, she's the leader, of course. As far as Zhang is concerned, I honestly don't know why he became the leader. It seemed to me like the girl with a spear modeled after a Greek warrior, not a hoplite, or maybe a hoplite. I don't know my Greek history particularly well. The girl with a spear and the round buckler, it seemed to me like she was in natural at like giving orders, you go there, you do that, you attack, and she was the strategist here. But maybe the principal, maybe the sorting hat, maybe whoever else saw something in Zhang and decided to give him the leadership of Team Juniper. And besides that, I really don't know what's gonna happen. From what I heard, episode 3 is about as far as correctness with the original series goes. Right? Episodes 1, 2, and 3, the ones that were released earlier as a bulk, more or less follow the events of the original web series. And from episode 4 and onwards, it's maybe not quite original stuff, but it's stories that are canon to the. No, different. It's stories where the original series is canon to them, but they aren't canon to the original. Something along those lines, something like that, I heard the explanation. So I'm gonna be curious to see where they're gonna take it. As I said at the very beginning, I haven't seen the original series. I might see it in the future, I probably will. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious where we're going. Because sure, we can go for a very generic, like magic school, battle school kind of deal with a monster of the week and some competition arc and stuff like that. But are we? RWBY is a series that isn't entirely bound by the shackles of anime genres. It's not the original series, at least. It's not an anime, an anime, right? It does stuff differently. It doesn't fall for the pitfalls, for the neat, even equal categorization of what genre contains what. Right, so I'm assuming they're gonna do some interesting stuff. What's that stuff gonna be? I don't know. We're gonna have to watch this episode and future ones to see what's exactly going to happen. And to do that, you need your subs, and I need my sound, of course. And I also need your support. You can support me on Patreon, Throne, or by just sharing my content. It really helps a lot the word of mouth. And yeah, I think we can start watching it. RWBY Ice Queendom Hyousetsu Teikoku Episode 3 version by subs, please. It's gonna be starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Dorms. Okay. Ice latte without ice because it's already melted and it's already warm. Legit, it's so hot that cold water out of my tap is warm. Go figure. I can't even take a cold bath because the water is fucking warm. Cold bath, cold shower, I don't have a bathtub. Right, someone also made a suggestion that perhaps from episode 4 onwards, we're gonna see an actual OP, and this is just a placeholder? Maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure. We'll see, again, in a couple of days we'll see what's gonna change from episode 4 onwards. If anything. The music is a banger, for sure, but you really can't hide the fact that the visuals of this OP are very much lazy. Entirely just cuts from the first 3 episodes. Okay, lore, world building. Thank you. Of course, Ruby is the main character, and as such, she has to fall asleep. Because, of course, because she's a natural. She doesn't have to learn, right? Oh, Weiss? Is it safe releasing this thing in the middle of a classroom? Okay. Combat scenes on point, as always. Yep. And that's the shot from the OP. And there we go. One and done. Weiss is gonna have a problem with RWBY, isn't she? because Weiss put so much effort and training and whatnot, and Ruby just completely disregards lessons and training, and she's just a natural, and how can it be? Yeah, you barely did anything. How dare you call yourself the leader and whatnot? A classic. Not unwelcome by any means, but a classic. Yeah, yeah, very much so. It hasn't even been a day. Oh, hello, Principal. Is Vice gonna request a transfer or something? Of course, you have your reasons. As always. Yeah? Okay, so in part, using her leadership as a way to motivate her. I mean, it's not wrong. Yeah, he's not wrong. Exactly. If you all fight as one, what's it matter who's the leader? You're a team, is what matters. Okay, so that's their HP. And yeah, that. What's the deal with that? With those thorns? Didn't she have them before on her neck? You're a vampire. Okay. So we have an explanation of what a semblance is. It's essentially their ultimate. That's essentially it. As you gain XP, you eventually can unlock your ultimate. And apparently, Ruby already has her ultimate unlocked. And it's turning into petals and a flurry of her cloak and flying away. Even this is a shot from the episode. I thought there was at least something unique in the OP, but apparently not. Apparently, like every single bit is lifted from. It's the middle of the night. Why the fuck are you serving her coffee? She's a great actress, isn't she? She doesn't mean anything she says, but she's a great actress. In fact, she absolutely despises the fact that she has a bunk bed. Yeah, and she has the thorns. Oh, so it wasn't the Greek girl who had thorns. It was Weiss and him. And Weiss already saw an image of herself in the courtyard, And now it seems like Jean also sees his own equivalent. Is it gonna be like a doppelganger situation? Where their evil doppelgangers are running around the school? Or is it that they're just sick of thorn tattoo? Trapped in their mind? Something along those lines. The title of this episode is, I believe, The Start of a Nightmare or something like that. Trapped in their mind, trapped in an unending nightmare kind of deal. Why the fuck are there bugs on my screen? Get the fuck out. That's a nice suitcase. Dreamcatcher wand. Nightmare Hunter. Okay. A Parasite Grim. So yeah, trapped in a nightmare. So for Team JNPR. The pacing of this episode is absolutely breakneck, isn't it? It's going at breakneck speeds. Just shot to shot to shot to shot to shot to fact to fact to fact to fact to fact. Not even any discussion about anything. Okay. Some Pokemon from Sword and Shield are talking to him. And that's his self-doubt. He doubts if he's worthy. He doubts if he's a good leader. He doubts if he can carry on the bloodline or whatever. And he's a bunny now. A little bunny boy. And she has a dream phone. I love it. I absolutely love it. That she has a dream phone. And now we're gonna get into some issues because Weiss isn't necessarily friendly with the rest of the RWBY team, and her heart is gonna reject everybody. And what's gonna happen? How are they gonna be able to help Weiss? Weiss. Yeah, Weiss. But Weiss. Yeah, my confusion comes from the fact that I said Weiss with a V, like from Alchemy Stars, but the sound is the same as Weiss, as in white in German. So it makes no difference ultimately. Okay, simple. Simple job. Ain't gonna be that simple with Weiss. A plant form. I love his bunny socks. Okay, so Weiss is gonna have problems. Because she's fairly fucking strong. Fits Weiss to a T. just take a look at each other's bodies. I mean, it seems prudent to do, doesn't it? Like, after you go to a forest and you come back, you look over yourself for ticks, and you maybe ask your friend or a family member to look at like your back or anywhere where you cannot look. This is a fair bit more dangerous than a tick, so sure, I guess. Yeah. Hashtag not all Faunus. Whomst? Is he gonna be a friend? Yeah, she's not wrong. A glimmer of recognition? A friend? At least Blake's friend? Uh, a doll? She has the cadence and the demeanor of a doll. Or I guess she just has the demeanor of a doll and she's not actually one. Hard to tell. Yeah, who cares? I mean, can you fault her though? I mean, not all White Fang, not all Faunus are White Fang, but all White Fang are Faunus, so. Yeah. We? Well, that's a slip of a tongue. Yeah. And she's on a rooftop, like the black cat she is. And she does have ears. I guess this dude is a monkey man, and Blake is a cat girl. I mean, she did help the heist of some train, so she technically is a criminal, but. And that's Shadow Weiss. Yeah. No, that White Fang is anything but that from what we've seen. That's a big breakfast. Or dinner, or meal in general. Yeah. It's a chance for a stakeout, I guess. Oh, hello, doll girl. How'd you figure out Lake is a Faunus? Yeah, okay. Who's the mysterious doll girl? She is pretending. That's just how it do be sometimes. She didn't get her way, and she's very much upset about it. Here comes the transport, I'm assuming. I love how much they use vehicles. You don't see vehicles used in the real world. At least not that much. She's gonna slice him up, is what she's gonna do. A gunshot, yeah. Who has a gun? Blake. Oh, it's this dude. Him again. Okay. Floating blades. I fucking love floating blades. I love the doll girl. She has floating blades. That's all I need to know about her to love her. That's a very quick and abrupt change to Weiss's demeanor. That feels like 3 episodes of character growth squished into half an episode, not gonna lie. And here's Shadow Weiss. Or maybe not. Stereo. I guess we can call her Schwarz. The reverse Weiss, or the Shadow Weiss, or whatever you want to call her. And here comes the thorns, and here comes the nightmare. And now the question is, how close is she really with her team? And how much are they gonna be help her? Chapter 4, Ice Queendom, the titular title, I guess. I love this piece of art. And in general, I love the Big Hat Witch. I gotta say, I really like her design. I really like her demeanor. Okay, I guess we just should let me prepare first. Okay, let's go through it again, shall we? That's how it should go. Okay, let's go. Dorms. This is curious. She wanted a bunk bed and she made herself a bunk bed. I was wondering for a moment, like later on. Oh, no, wait. Oh, two bunk bed. Oh, okay, I see what's going on. I see what's going on, I think. Like, at first I thought that only RWBY made herself a bunk bed because maybe she's used to sleeping on a bunk bed with Yang, with her sister, and the other two beds are just regular, but now it turns out they prepared two bunk beds. And from the looks of this room was meant for only two beds. So I'm assuming the teams that they formed initially, right? Yang with Blake and RWBY with Weiss. But they just moved two of the beds into the room, created bunk beds, and all four of them can stay together. That's what I'm getting from here. And yeah, those are the two statuettes that they found in the ruins. Okay. I gotcha. You're always so excited for everything, but then reality hits you hard and you fall asleep. Essentially. Beasts of Destruction and Carnage the Grim. Beowulf. Beowulf. Boombatusk? I guess Boombatusk. Boombatusk. Whatever. And of course, RWBY is the protagonist, so she has to fall asleep, because of course. And of course she's excited. Action scenes, again, as always, on point. That's really one area where I can't really criticize this series, because the action scenes and the combat is genuinely always on point. Some animation on ones. The scale and perspective gets a little fucky-wacky at times, but whatever, really. And of course, RWBY knows what to do, where the weak point is, and she's a natural. And that's the source of the conflict, because how can you be so carefree? How can you not care about classes? How can you not train and not have formal training? I trained my whole life and I read books and I did all that stuff. I worked hard for what I have, for where I am now, and you get to be the leader? And what's more, you're competent as a grim hunter? How can it be? What have I spent all these years for, right? That kind of a conflict between them. Clearly visible. Let RWBY handle it? Yeah, probably a good idea. Weiss's design. Her bow is in the back of her head. Her ears are at the top. The bow has no way to cover her ears right now. In her like usual clothes, it makes sense that her bow is at the top of her head, so it sits firmly on top of her eyes, covering that, on top of her ears, covering them. This makes no sense. Like, right now we are supposed to not know yet that she has cat ears, so it looks normal, like she just has a bow on the back of her head. What's the big deal, right? But It is a big deal, as it turns out later. I deserve better than this, of course. That's also part of her thinking. Nobody will follow a leader that doesn't do their best. Take some time and think about how you should carry out your responsibilities. I have a feeling that placing Ruby in the position of a leader is meant to teach her, is meant to train her to be a leader. It's meant to teach her responsibility. It's meant to teach her all that stuff that a leader needs, right? Right now, she's not a leader material. Probably Blake would have been better. Maybe Yang, maybe even Weiss would have been better as a leader. But for some reason, they decided to place Ruby there. Maybe because of the usual explanation of, oh, she has the most empathy or something like that, probably. I think making you team leader would solve everything. Your skills are exceptional, but your attitude is a problem, very much so. And yeah, she does act very much the way the professor just noticed. Right? She doesn't get her way and she throws a tantrum. That's been Vice's character all this time. She didn't get on the Pyrrha's team. On Pyrrha's team, she threw a tantrum. She doesn't get to be the leader, she throws a tantrum. That's just how Vice is. Aura gauge, it's just HP. It's just HP. Cardin is clearly better here. And I love the fact that he uses a mace. Again, variety of weapons. You must choose a fighting style that fits within the limits of your aura. That's an interesting tidbit. If you have a lot of aura, you can probably be a little bit more reckless. You can take a few hits, so you can maybe have like a double-handed weapon. Because even if you get hit, you have a lot of aura, and you can get a hit back. If you have very little aura, you probably want some shield to be defensive, or maybe you want some weapons that allow you to be stealthy, or maybe something that allows you to be very, very nimble and you can just avoid attacks instead of tanking them or defending from them, right? Interesting. Interesting. A lot of mechanics I see here. Aura is present in all living things except the Grim. You have to release the aura that sleeps inside you. And yeah, we finally get an explanation of what semblance is. Your unique power. Everybody has a unique semblance. And it gets activated as your aura grows. Apparently. How do you grow your aura? Probably just training. Gathering XP for killing Grim. That's probably the basis of growing your aura. How was he able to enroll when he didn't even know about aura? Well, how was Ruby able to enroll? Although, from what I recall, Ruby is quite fascinated by the hunters. I think her mother was a huntress as well, so it's reasonable that Ruby knows a lot, I guess. Yeah. What's more important is that Pyrrha unquestionably accepted that useless Jean as team leader. Yeah, that's the difference between Pyrrha and you, isn't it? That's the difference. Pyrrha was told that, hey, this is your team leader, and she just accepted it. Okay, that's my team leader, that's fine, we're all a team. But Weiss doesn't want to accept that. Weiss wants to be the team leader. Maybe you can score more points by being a perfect teammate. That's not how it works. You don't score points. There are no points to score. Cream and 5 sugars, that's 1 sweet coffee. Even I don't sweeten my mug this much. This has like 3 teaspoons of sugar in it. Of cane sugar. So less sweet than regular sugar. And that's it. And she has like half of it and 5 sugars. Jesus. That's a syrup. That's a coffee syrup she's drinking. I've decided to be the best teammate I can. Or at least to pretend to be the best teammate I can. That's Vice's angle here. I always wanted a bang, but no, you didn't. You filthy little liar. What the fuck is wrong with the bugs? And his doubts, of course. The darkest parts of his mind are coming to haunt him. The nightmare that he will be trapped inside of. And here's all the thorns. Again, they know that there is those seeds in the forest. All of them were in the forest. How the fuck did they not do something like sending all the students that were in the forest to an infirmary to get a checkup? Right? Like, give the big hat witch a room and send all the students one by one there so that she can do her mumbo jumbo and detect the nightmare, or just look at the fucking thorns on their body. How did they not do that? When I was by the seaside back in I was like 13, 14 by the time, but way back when in school, right? We went to the seaside for school vacation, and they checked out every single one of us for like black spots, whatever they're called, right? Because it could be melanoma, and you should cover those with high UV filter and whatnot, right? To be safe. Just little things like that. When I go to the forest for some reason, or my mom or my grandma or whoever, when they go to the forest to, I don't know, forage for mushrooms. We have a tradition of foraging for mushrooms at least like once a year. We always come back home, we undress to like lingerie. Well, not lingerie, underwear. Lingerie is the wrong word to use it. And you always check out your own body for ticks. And when it comes to the back, you can't look at your back unless you have like a big mirror. We don't really. Then someone else looks at your back. Are there any ticks there? How come they're not doing that? How come they're not doing that? Come the fuck on. It's such a dangerous thing that you have a dedicated witch to hunt nightmares. You have a dedicated whatchamacallit? You have a dedicated occupation of a nightmare hunter, and you don't see it prudent to check each other out for nightmare? What? But I understand that without this omission, there would be no story for Jean, there would be no story for Weiss. So, makes sense, like, story-wise, but doesn't make sense everything else-wise. We need to begin immediately, of course. I love her little chest and how much different stuff she has. Everything's like techno-magical. There's something that looks like a camera. There is a monitor. There's a couple of keypads. There's a phone. I love it. I'm always a huge fan of a marriage between magic and technology. I always loved it. Like Etherpunk, that's my jam. Shion Zaiden. Okay, Shion. Shion it is. She has a trigger on her wand, and her wand is a dreamcatcher. Inside his dream, it's a task for his close friends. If a stranger tries, his heart will reject them, and here we're getting a setup for issues they're gonna have with Weiss. Because who's gonna be able to enter Weiss's dream, right? Is there anybody who she trusts in any amount? I don't think so. She doesn't have any close friends here. She's not close with her family back at home either. Who's gonna be able to get into her dream? RWBY? Maybe, because she's special, because she's the main character? I don't know. Blake? Because Weiss had a little bit of a heart-to-heart with her? Maybe. Interesting. And of course, it's his doubt. Yeah, males of the Ark clan have been fated to become glorious warriors, but you are a disappointment. You're weak. Your aura is weak, your skill is weak, you're incompetent, you're miserable, you're a coward, you're a little bunny rabbit that runs away at the rustling of the leaves, that runs away from his own shadow. How can you hope to continue the bloodline and yada 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 yada, right? And of course, here are the friends, and we don't even spend much time with them because it's just a setup. The fact that Ark caught the nightmare is just a setup for Weiss. That was quick. Oh yeah, that was quick. Excellent. They must be such a closely knit team. Right? We're here for you. And here it is. Solved. Here comes the nightmare. Caught. One and done. Really simple. They trust each other, so it was a very simple job. Yeah, it ain't gonna be that simple always. Because Weiss has some issues. Typically, Grimm take on a beast form, but some Grimm are unique, like a plant form, or whatever other form. And thankfully, his aura is still undeveloped, so it was very easy to do. His semblance hasn't awakened, his aura in combat is below average. But, what do you know, Weiss is pretty fucking strong, and she doesn't have anybody trusted. So it's gonna be a challenge, isn't it? It's gonna be a challenge. Please tell the students to remain diligent. Ah! Search for thorns on your bodies. Tell your students to remain diligent. Tell your fucking staff to be diligent. Do they not have a nurse room? An infirmary? Whatever, fucking broom closet? Nothing. Have them... I don't know, have them go to the pool as a pretext if you don't want to scare them. Have them go to the pool. And if someone refuses, look into that. And if you see thorns on someone's body, look into that even more. Jesus fucking Christ, there's so many ways to prevent whatever's going to happen to Weiss. Again, I understand that our goal is not preventing it, or rather the story's goal. Preventing it is not in the interest of the story. Having Weiss go through it, having Team RWBY go through it, and as a result become more tightly knit, that's what the story goes for. But I don't like it when you get to a result you want through completely bullshit means. Right? I don't like it. I really don't. Like, you could still do something like, hey, okay, we noticed that this thing on Jean's body, so how about now we do a checkup? Or tomorrow we're gonna do a checkup. And then it becomes known that Weiss has it. Right? But they would have at least done something about it. And that would have been better than doing nothing about it. Yeah, I really don't like it when a story goes to where it needs to go through people's incompetence, for example, or through a complete disregard for logic, through complete disregard for what should have been done. I'm really not a huge fan of it. I don't know how it was in the original. Was it done the same way? Was it done better? I don't know. And of course, there's some festival, because of course. Vital Festival Tournament from dusk till dawn. Police force do not cross. Another robbery. They took the dust and left everything else, of course. I mean, Weiss isn't wrong here. She genuinely isn't. White Fang, right now, is a bunch of violent, crazed degenerates of Faunus supremacists saying that they're going to wipe humanity off the face of the planet. That's exactly and precisely what White Fang is. There's no lie in Weiss's words. Sure, it's not all Faunus, but it is a significant enough amount of Faunus to lead to Faunus persecution, apparently. Right? So, sure, not all Faunus, but did the Faunus, I don't know, reject the White Fang, like in an official manner? Did they, I don't know, release a statement that we denounce the actions of White Fang? Are the Faunus trying to stop the White Fang? Right? If not, then sure, it's only a small minority, but... Right? Like, I'm assuming it was only a small minority of Nazi party members that actually killed a human in their lives, but that doesn't follow that, oh, not all Nazis were bad, kind of sort of deal. Okay, maybe not. It would be more like not all Germans are bad, which is true, but yeah, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that. I don't have a presence on Twitter yet, and I don't want to be cancelled so early. Blake's got a point. The dust robbery I saw was done by humans. Indeed. Indeed it was. Indeed it was. Yeah, the situation of Blake here is very, very interesting, very curious. Because sure, she's no longer a member of the White Fang, but she used to be a member, so she had to have believed in their ideals to some degree. And sure, not all Faunus are White Fang, but are Faunus going against White Fang? Or are they just allowing it to happen? Or are they maybe encouraging White Fang? Or what's going on? We don't really have much insight into Faunus Faunus like society, right? Do they even have like a fully blown society with a government and what all, or are they just like a bunch of scattered villagers or something? Because if the latter, then sure, it will be a little bit harder to denounce the White Fang, but if they actually have some land, some country, some government, then there are actions they can take to prove that not all Faunus are bad. If they aren't taking those actions, then they're essentially accomplices. That's a tough spot. That's a tough spot to be in. Here's the doll girl. Apparently we have like automatons in this world. I did not know that. Penny. Okay. She's Penny, and she's a friend. She made a first friend. And see here, Blake's bow makes sense. It sits firmly on her cat ears. When it was in the back of her head, it made no sense. Again. It's just a stowaway, and she's not wrong. Who did he hurt by being a stowaway? Absolutely no one. Sure, it's illegal, but so is jaywalking, and there's like pretty much zero consequences for jaywalking most of the time. He'll surely join the White Fang. That's wrong. I mean, that's not wrong entirely. It is a possibility. It, like, genuinely, it is a possibility. You can't just discount it. He might join the White Fang. You treat all Faunus like criminals. And again, Weiss is not wrong. White Fang is an organization of pure evil that hates humanity. And there was the bit of White Fang didn't used to be like that. Well, problem is, what they used to be has absolutely no bearing on how they are right now. It has absolutely no meaning. It doesn't matter what they used to be like, because they aren't like that right now. Right? It's really a very gray versus gray situation here. No one is like objectively in the right. Weiss is correct in her denouncement of White Fang, but she's not correct in her prejudice towards Faunus. Blake is correct in her defense of Faunus, but she's not correct in her defense of White Fang. Right? Again, a comparison to people with funny windmill on their arms. They didn't start out as like world cleansing, mass murdering, genocidal force. They started as a political party, and they genuinely like their manifestos and whatnot at the very beginning were genuinely, hey, we want German people to have better lives. That's where they started at, and then they spiraled it down. So you can't exactly judge them by how they were at the beginning. The same goes for White Fang. Sure, they might have been all about sunshine and rainbows at the very beginning, but now they are about eradicating humanity. They are genocidal maniacs. You can't judge them by how they were. You have to judge them by how they are. Simple. So, yeah, again, it is gray versus gray. People like you drove the Faunus into a corner. No, it's not people like her that drove Faunus into a corner, it's people like White Fang that drove Faunus into a corner. Because White Fang puts Faunus in a bad light. If not for White Fang, the people's view of Faunus wouldn't have been this bad. Sure, the White Fang is probably a result of something else going on. That might have been the fault of the Weiss Corporation or whatever. But as it is, it's the White Fang that gives Faunus bad PR. Very, very, very grey. Yeah, have you attended any of the funerals of the people they killed? Just for being company board members. Maybe you were just tired of being pushed around. Okay, but did you have to, like, go in the direction of genocide? Did you have to go in the direction of murdering innocent people? Right? Sure, you were tired of being pushed around. Does that give you permission to murder people and burn down cities and whatever you want to do? No, not really. Do you have any other venues to go about what you want to go about? Maybe not. But that still doesn't give you the right to just murder innocents. Again, very, very, very morally grey on all sides. On every single side. And she's a cat girl, because of course she is. If you're gonna hate her just for being a Faunus, then you really are a bigot. And sure, she's correct here. If you hate her just for being a Faunus, you are a bigot. Absolutely. If she were a member of White Fang, sure, hate her, she deserves it, but she isn't a member of White Fang anymore. She freed herself from that. She ran away from that. She rejected White Fang. So she doesn't deserve your hate. If, when she was in White Fang, she maybe, I don't know, murdered your uncle or something, sure, but we don't know that. So you can't just hate her for being a Faunus. That organization is enough about the organization. Well, no. Honestly, like, it's... I know where they're going for here with the enough about the organization, right? It doesn't matter, she's not a member of the organization, so let's not talk about it. But no, not enough about the organization. Because the organization, White Fang, has to be stopped. Either by just dissolving them by force if need be, or by removing the reason for their existence. Preferably the latter. Problem is, even if you fix any issues that created White Fang, if you stop the oppression and exploitation of old Faunus so that White Fang has no reason to fight against it, will the White Fang stop fighting? Or will they find something new to fight for? Or will they continue just being a group of Faunus supremacists? Again, a lot of moral grayness. I was a member for most of my life. Stupid creeps that use force to get whatever they want. Let's call them for what they are, terrorist organization. Doesn't seem like you? White Fang was supposed to be a bridge between humans and the Faunus. Well, they are anything but. Again, can't judge them by what they were supposed to be. Can only judge them by what they are. I wanted to dedicate my life to something truly important. Yeah. That's a nice dish. Very varied. Probably even like too varied, honestly. Fries and steak, cool. Salad in the top right corner, cool. And then you have like both a croissant and a piece of a bun or something, or a slice of bread. Why two of those? Butter and jam, sure. Then you have slices of salami or sausage and more tomato. It's like a demented version of full English, isn't it? Kinda, sorta. Yeah? That, hey, apparently he likes eating well, so... And that's a good question. Have you told your friends any of this? No. She didn't. And that's gonna cause issues. And that's already causing issues. And that will cause issues when Weiss succumbs to the thorns. Because there is very little trust inside of Team RWBY. Like, really little trust. Yang and RWBY trust each other because they're sisters. Besides that, there's nothing. And I have a feeling that a good chunk of the story will be about the Team RWBY growing closer together eventually, because they will have to. I have to find out who's behind those dust robberies. Yeah. And here's the doll, whose name I remembered for a moment, but now I've forgotten it. Ears not about both. Bet you're only pretending to be nice to my sister too. Yeah, genuinely. And here is Weiss throwing a tantrum. Nothing is turning out the way I imagined it. Yeah. And it is a Schnee corporation. White Fang working with humans. Question is, through whose incentive? Is it humans who are using White Fang to drive racial tensions? Or is it White Fang who found human collaborators? Blake jumps in. And out of nowhere, the doll turns out to be a badass, apparently. As I mentioned during watching of this episode, it's really going at a breakneck pace. It should have been 2 episodes, not gonna lie. We didn't even get any combat scenes here. It's just she emerges out of the burning containers, and she has jet boots, or jet legs, should I say. Oh no, those are boots. The jet propulsion doesn't come out of the bottom of her feet, just from the side. And she has floating swords, floating blades. And that's one of my favorite things about the character. I fucking love floating blades. And we just completely skip over it, over everything that happened, to this moment of Weiss having a change of heart. And don't want to hear any more about the organization. I don't care about any of it. Next time you have a big problem, come to your teammates, not some stranger. Very, 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 very fast pacing here. Extremely so. Because it's character development both for Weiss and for Blake. Character development for Weiss took like half this episode, and character development of Blake took just this scene, it seems. Come to your teammates for help, not to some strangers. Okay. That's Blake's arc done. At least part of it. And there's this girl who we have absolutely no idea about. Nobody bothered to ask, nobody bothered to do anything. Who is she? What is she? Ah. You will never be able to forgive them. Yeah, that's the doubt, that's the shadow Weiss. And in the next episode, Ice Queendom, we're gonna have to get into Weiss's mind. Could Ice Queendom refer to the inside of Weiss's mind? She's kind of like an ice queen, I guess, kind of, sorta. Maybe. Is the rest of the series gonna take place inside of Weiss's mind? God, I hope not. Interesting. Interesting where they're gonna go with that. Okay. That was episode 3 of RWBY Ice Queendom, and it was cool. Probably the weakest so far, but still kind of cool. The weakest so far, mostly due to pacing, mostly due to the absolute bombardment of events and of new characters and of reveals and whatnot. It really feels like 3 or 4 episodes squeezed into one. It really does feel like that. And I'm not a huge fan of it. I really am not. I really like how they started going for some tension between Blake and Weiss, because Weiss, because both of them are correct to some degree, but also incorrect to some degree. So you can't really pick a side there. That's very interesting dynamic. Like, you can't side with Weiss completely because she believes all Faunus are evil, and you can't side with Blake completely because she just defends White Fang to a degree. So it's a very between a rock and a hard place kind of situation. And by the end of the episode, it got essentially resolved, because Weiss no longer thinks that all Faunus are evil, apparently, or so she says at least. So now we know that Weiss is correct, that hey, White Fang is evil, but not all Faunus are White Fang, so Faunus are cool actually. And there goes the tension between them. Not a huge fan of how quickly it was resolved, and how we weren't shown much of the resolution. It really didn't have the time to properly sink in, because usually to give something time to sink in, you leave on that, right? You end an episode on something. You create a conflict, a direct conflict between Weiss and Blake, and you end the episode. and it gives the viewer the time to mull it over, to think about it, to let it seep, to, to think about that stuff, about this conflict. And then you provide a solution in the next episode. Uh, Giving us both conflict and a solution of it in a single episode, not a huge fan of it. It reminds me of the pacing of some of like weekly shows, the pacing of My Little Pony, for example, where we introduce a conflict at the beginning of the episode. There is conflict during the episode, and by the end of the episode, we solve the conflict. And that's our conflict for the day, our conflict for the week done, our moral for the week done. Okay, next episode, it's gonna be a conflict about whether apples or pears are better, or whatever, and it's gonna be a resolution and moral of the story that both are good actually because all fruit is cool, right? It really feels like that, except like on a with a little bit more weight than picking between apples and pears, but still. So to sum it up, not a huge fan of the pacing of this episode, really not. Um, a fan of the grayness while it was there, because it no longer seems to be there to a large degree, because Weiss no longer holds her bigoted opinion, so she's now cool and there is no grayness there. And that makes Blake mostly correct about what she says, and there's no conflict between them, no clashing viewpoints. It's just cool, sunshine and rainbows. Um, Not a huge fan of how quickly we were introduced to two brand new characters out of nowhere. And the monkey dude is like, whatever, he wasn't particularly significant part of this episode, so I can forgive that. But the doll girl, she intrigues me because she came completely out of nowhere. Then she was able to notice Blake's ears and found Ruby to tell her about it. Then she was enough of a badass to down a Vito and burn the whole area to the ground with floating blades. And she has jet boots. Like, she's too significant. She has too much of a presence, and her actions her actions have too much significance for the events of this episode to just completely and utterly gloss over her. Right? Is it just me? Is it just me, or did she genuinely should have more like screen time? And then we completely gloss over the events altogether. Like, cool, we busted the operation, the dust stealing operation. We destroyed some containers of the Schnee family. We destroyed some vehicles. And haha, we're back at school. Time to go to bed, and we're at the dorms. Where is the in between? Where are the consequences of what they did? Where's the aftermath? There's none whatsoever. And that doesn't sit well with me. It really feels like it should have been a good 2 or 3 episodes. One episode for Juniper's adventures inside of Ark's mind, for example, Jean's mind. Second episode for the conflict between Blake and Weiss, and the conflict between them, the fight with the dust stealing gang, and in an after credit scene or a during credit scene, aftermath of it, as they are praised by the principal because you did good, girls, you did good, you busted the illegal operation, but there was also some property damage, so we're gonna have you cleaning the toilets at school as a punishment, or something, right? And then you have Weiss going all like, no, I'm not gonna stoop so low as to clean the toilets, and ha ha ha, everybody laughs, and we end at that. Uh, yeah, not a huge fan of pacing. Again, to sum it up, I like the themes, I like the new characters, I like what we're going for here, I like the moral grayness, I like all that stuff. I don't like the format it was presented in. Too fast. Way, way, way too fast. Nothing had the time to sink in, nothing had the time to fully play out, nothing had the time to bear consequences, nothing had the time to have aftermath. Simple as that. Probably the weakest episode so far. I hope episode 4 is gonna be better. They probably, maybe, I don't know, rushed this episode to squeeze the entirety of what they wanted to squeeze into it, and then from episode 4 onwards, they're gonna go for the original stuff. I don't know. Doesn't change the facts, right? Intentions don't change the fact of the outcome. And that's the theme with the White Fang, and that's the theme with this episode. What their intentions were for this episode doesn't matter because the outcome is kind of middling at best. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it. So you guys, you tell me in the comments down below, what did you think of this episode, of my reaction, of my theories? Do you have somewhere to correct me? Maybe I misinterpreted something. I don't know. Maybe there was something in the original that went differently, that went better than here. I'm gonna leave it at your discretion whether or not it's a spoiler. Err on the side of caution, please. No spoilers. No, 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 no spoilers. No pomegranates. Yeah, did the original series had better pacing here? I assume it did, so tell me about it. Like this video if you liked it, disliked it if you disliked it, but tell me why so I can improve. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of future releases of not only RWBY Ice Queendom, but also Overlord Season 4, Hataraku Mao-sama Season 2, Yofukashi no Uta Call of the Night. This one's amazing, I highly recommend you watch it. Also Symphogear GX, and a mystery show that will be replacing Review Starlight. I don't know what that show is going to be because my patrons are voting for it. And if you too want to vote for it, you can also join my Patreon, link in the description. You can vote on the next show I'm gonna be watching for just $5 a month. And for $10 you get early access to non-seasonal shows like whatever the show I'm gonna be watching is gonna be, like Symphogear GX, and like whatever future non-seasonal shows I'm gonna be watching. And for just $1 you get a role on my Discord and you get a place in the credits. Join my Discord. You can talk spoilers freely there because we have a RWBY channel and you can use spoiler tags and talk about spoilers, and it's open to everybody, completely free to join, so don't be a stranger and come hang out with us. There's other ways to support the channel as well. I forgot to mention Throne, it's new. You can pitch into some new gear for me, like a camera, cam link, lighting, stuff like that. Link in the description. And of course, if you don't want to spend money but still want to support the channel, you can do that by sharing my content, spreading the word. The word of mouth really matters a lot for the growth of a channel. I'm forever grateful to everybody who shared links to my videos on like Reddit or YouTube. Probably not YouTube, but Discord or somewhere like that. So thank you all, and yeah, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's the credits I mentioned. The list is already quite big. I'm gonna have to resize it, and you can help make it even bigger and make me resize it even earlier than I planned to.